guys, welcome back to the Piston Show. I'm Keshi Dillon, and today we have here with us, and I've waited a long time to say this because I've really been looking forward to this bike, the new BMW R1300GS. Now, Malaysia is sort of a latecomer to the game, and we always seem to be unlucky with newer bikes, because this bike was actually introduced to the world sometime last year, but it was only about 2 months ago that BMW Malaysia introduced this for the Malaysian market at the Malaysia Auto Show. It costs 140,000 ringgit. It's lighter, it's faster, it's more intelligent, and it has a bunch of features that is designed to keep you safe, comfortable, and everything else. Now, the BMW GS, the 1250 GS, was already a very capable bike, and BMW achieved some record sales with that machine. This, though, when it was first introduced, the world raised some eyebrows. In a good way or a bad way, we'll explore that in detail shortly. Guys, as usual, we'll be right back in 60 seconds. Whether you ride for fun or for work, untoward incidents are bound to happen. That is why it is very important to have an insurance partner that takes care of you and your beloved motorcycle. I choose Berjaya Sompo Insurance because it gives me and my motorcycle everything that I need, including maintenance tips and comprehensive insurance coverage. I get complimentary personal accident coverage worth 5,000 ringgit, and Berjaya Sompo Insurance also covers my motorcycle for the agreed value of the sum insured. But to top it all off, I get complimentary 24/7 towing services of up to 100 kilometers with comprehensive coverage, so I know my bike will never be left stranded. On top of that, my insurance covers all riders, so I know my friends and family are covered when they ride my bike as well. With Berjaya Sompo Motorcycle Insurance, and it's the Good Riders Initiative, which is a testament to the company's continuous commitment to promoting rider safety, I know I'm always taken care of. So the BMW R1300GS has been in global markets for a while already, and there's plenty of content on the internet telling you how good of a bike or how much developed it is over the previous generation model. So there really is nothing much that I can tell you that is not already available on the internet. But guys, this is the base bike for the Malaysian market. This costs 140,000 ringgit, and if you go out and order a R1300GS today, you'll probably get it in about 2 months' time. This is built in Thailand, so you don't get a lot of options which we have been seeing a lot of, such as the height adjustment and the adaptive suspension and such. Those will all be available later on. Not sure if they're available as an option. I don't think so as yet. I do know that there is going to be an option 719 GS that is going to be coming, I think, later this year or early next year, and that is going to be fully kitted up, so look out for that. That's supposed to be the more luxurious version of the GS. So what is new with the new R1300GS? I know you probably already know this already, and as I said, there's already a lot of content already available on the internet, but I'm just going to do a once over, remind you about what's new with the new 1300GS, and then tell you what I like and what I really think could be better. Now, BMW Malaysia only loaned me this bike for about 3 days, which, considering that this bike is designed to take you to the end of the world, 3 days is really not that much to actually explore the capabilities of the motorcycle. However, it's good enough to tell me what it feels like, how much more improved it is, and to show me what I really like about the bike. The brakes, though, for example, are measuring at 310 millimeters. Those are twin discs, cornering ABS and such, grabbed by 4-port calipers. You get Michelin and key tires. These are great on-road and light off-roading. These wrap a 19-inch front wheel. No dramas. The suspension, though, is all new and contributes to the weight saving of the new 1300GS. The suspension of the bike, as I said, is all new. This is the new BMW Evo telelever suspension that you see over there. It's very unconventional yet typical of the GS. This is what gives the GS its handling characteristic. some reviewers do not like it. They prefer the traditional fork system, but I really don't quite mind it over the conventional telescopic forks or inverted forks and such. I do think that it makes the front end feel a little bit lighter. When I first got on the bike, I thought that I'm just going to lose the front end because it just felt so much more lighter. It is really plush. I think the entire suspension system on this bike is superb. It's a lot more on the softer side of things, and this is what differentiates the GS from its competitors, the likes of the Ducati Multistrada V4S, the Triumph Tiger 1200, because this is better suited for touring and comfort and such, which it does brilliantly. So up here, there's a lot of things that are new, such as the new aluminium fuel tank, which is down by 1 litre, is down to 18 litres with about 3 litres of reserve. That also contributes to the weight saving, but the biggest update to the GS is obviously the 1300cc Boxer engine. This, my friends, is the most powerful Boxer engine ever produced by BMW. Now, it has a 360-degree firing sequence, which makes it a lot smoother and also makes it sound like this. If you come over here, I would like to make a point, because usually with the 1250, the 1200s and such, the characteristic of the Boxer engine is that when you start it up, it will judder the bike from side to side, and that is, if you've ridden a GS long enough, it will sort of become second nature to you. You will come to expect it, and that's exactly what I was thinking when I first jumped on the bike, except that it didn't judder as much. Check this out. Notice? It hardly moves. That's how smooth the new 1300 engine is. And because the transmission is placed underneath the engine, I'm not sure how, I haven't been briefed about the intricate details of the powertrain, but it results in a more smaller, compact setting, more smaller engine, and that just means that BMW could save weight, and that ultimately resulted in about a 12 kg savings in terms of overall weight. Moving on from the engine, which creates 145 horsepower and 150 Newton meters of torque, which is channeled through the rear wheel through a 6-speed transmission with quick shifter, which I'll get to later. Now this is where the magic happens. This is obviously the cockpit, and in typical GS fashion, you get wide handlebars, you get quality controls, you get the works, right? And I really like this. Check out the electronic windscreen. Now this actually results in one of the quietest cockpit on the road, and when it gets too warm or when you're riding in traffic, you can simply drop the screen, because you might want some wind in your face and such, you know, in our typical Malaysian humidity. So for me, that is beautiful. And this, if you're wondering what this is for navigation through Garmin. This is obviously an option, and it's obviously not attached, but you'll have to pay somewhere about 4,000 plus ringgit if you want that. Otherwise, you can just sign up for a quad lock and get an access navigation through your phone. Anyway, the software of this bike is somewhat similar to the BMW S1000 XR, and it's easy to access, it's easy to understand. This basically tells me everything that is going on with the bike, the temperature, the tire pressure monitoring system, the voltage for the battery, everything basically. And if I go further, there's all the onboard computers and such, the trip computer, tire pressure monitoring system, service requirements, yada yada yada. So this is good enough for me actually. This actually just gives me a different, more sports type of design. I don't mind that, and I don't mind this either. What I really do mind, and I wish that was there, and I just can't figure out how to do this, is I wish there was a fuel gauge, because right now I had just set it to this and it's just telling me that I have 135 kilometers left to go, which is fine, but my brain tells me that I would like a fuel gauge, because in every car and bike that I get into there is a fuel gauge. I'm not sure about the range. It's just, I know it works. It's probably just me, but yeah, I would like a fuel gauge. This works fine as well, but I like a fuel gauge. Anyway, this is this button that I'm about to press over here. This is the ride mode selector. So you get 4 ride modes. You get road, dynamic, dynamic pro, as well as rain. Now all of this in the typical sense results in a special something through the throttle. It makes the throttle sharper, makes the throttle less responsive. It adjusts the ABS intervention, the suspension, everything according to the mode that you are in. I've tried them all. Dynamic is probably the best. Rain is a little bit too soft, and road is what I spend a lot of time with. It's just I find it safer. Now the seats are, well, something special, because some have criticized them for not being as plush as before. Well, I don't really mind them. They're a very nice balance between hard and soft, and I really like the material that they're covered in, because no matter what I wore, whether it was this, waterproof nylon pants or whether I shouldn't be saying this, whether I was wearing my shorts or even my denim jeans, they were not slippery. Even under hard braking, I found myself stuck to the seat, and that was really nice. And I like the way that it has been cut out as well. It's very slim in here, just right around your thigh area. So this makes it easier to flat foot when you're riding the bike. Anyway, this also takes me to my next point. The seat sits 850 millimeters off the ground, and as I've mentioned, the Malaysian bikes at the moment do not come with the height adjustment feature, so that is something that will come later on. But at 850 millimeters, it's not exactly very short people friendly. So however, as I was saying, just because the way the seat has been cut out, it's easier to put your feet on the ground. The other thing that I like is that the seat material moves all the way up here as well, which makes this part very cushy. I like that, especially under heavy braking. Your family jewels, no problem. Anyway, the way that the tank has been cut out as well makes it a lot slimmer. In fact, it's almost BMW S1000XR like slimmer at the front over here. The previous generation GS was bulky and such, but over here gives it a very slim, very smallish feel to the cockpit, which I appreciate. So one of the biggest updates to the new 1300GS is obviously the frame of the bike. If you've been following the updates to the new GS, you would know that BMW has basically abandoned the trellis tube frame, which in my eyes was a bit of an eyesore, because I never really liked all those bars and such that were hanging out towards the rear of the frame. I always thought of that as a bit of an eyesore. Now though, it looks cleaner, and you get a 2-part frame, this main frame, and then a bolted on rear frame with the engine, has a load bearing unit, and it's also lighter, and this contributes to the overall weight saving of the motorcycle, which ultimately is beneficial to you as the rider, because it makes it easier to manage the bike when you're traveling long distance, riding through traffic, and I hate to say this, or perhaps even parking at Starbucks. Hey guys, what are some of the things that you consider when choosing a petrol brand? For me, I make sure that the petrol can keep my engine clean and also give me better mileage. I'm sure everybody thinks about this when choosing a particular brand. With BH Petrol's Infinity Round 95 Euro 4M, you get precisely that. It has special German additives that reduces the amount of deposits that build up in your engine over the long term, keeping it clean. It also has improved friction modifiers that reduces the amount of friction that your engine has to go through, ultimately giving you better mileage and making BH Petrol's Infinity Round 95 Euro 4M the right choice. Now we move on to what I really like about the new GS. And I forgot to mention this, but the rear wheel measures in at 17 inches, but I'm sure you knew that already. Oh, and another thing, the front headlight is a matrix LED headlight. It does not come with cornering abilities or cornering headlights, because that is an option. Anyway, again, I'm not sure whether that is available in Malaysia as yet though, but I'm sure it will trickle down the assembly line later on. Anyway, I really like the smooth engine of the new GS. It just is incredibly smooth and makes this bike just, some might say that it has lost its boxer-like character, and yes, it perhaps has lost that character a little bit, but in return you're getting a much smoother engine, and for me that is a beneficial trade-off. And it's also a lot more economical. In fact, in its class, perhaps it is the most economical motorcycle among its competitors. But how economical exactly? Well, I have this written down. I did my research. Well, the BMW R1300GS needs just 4.8 litres per 100 kilometers. The Triumph Tiger 1200, natural competitor, needs 5.1 litres per 100 km. The Harley-Davidson Pan America needs 5.5 litres per 100 km, whereas the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S needs 5.7 litres per 100 km, and no surprises here, but the Ducati Multistrada V4 needs 7 litres per 100 km. And if you're curious about tank size, this is relevant because the BMW R1300GS has a 19 litre tank. I said 18 litres earlier, I think it's a 19 litre tank. And then Triumph Tiger 1200 has a 20 litre tank, Harley-Davidson Pan America 21.2, KTM 1290 Super Adventure S 23 litres, Ducati Multistrada V4 22 litres. So with this tank size, what is the range that you're going to get? Well, according to official figures, the 1300GS will give you a range of 396 kilometers, whereas the Triumph Tiger 1200 will give you a range of 392, the Harley-Davidson Pan America 385, the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S with its bigger tank will give you 496, and the Ducati Multistrada V4 is the thirstiest of them all. You get a 314 kilometer range. So that takes me to my next point about what I like about the GS. I really like its smaller size. It makes it a bit more manageable, especially in traffic. Of course, when you're riding it on the highways, you want something that is big and bulky, you know, makes it feel very commanding on the road. But don't get me wrong, this is still a very nice bike on the highway. Besides that, I really like the electronic screen, as I've already mentioned that, but you also get these sub screens over here, the smaller screens that are designed to keep the wind flow away from you. And besides that, I really like the adaptive cruise control as well. Now, it can be a little bit intrusive, but I don't mind it actually, but I guess that's something I'll tell you when I'm talking about what I don't like about the bike. The other thing that I like about the bike is the blind spot monitoring system. It makes life on the highways, especially in heavy traffic, a lot more manageable. So what is it exactly that I don't like about the 1300GS? Well, I was talking about the adaptive cruise control earlier with its auto brake function and such. Now, I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but I just can't remember that. But the motorcycle has an auto brake function. If you get too close to the car ahead of you, the bike will auto brake. However, when you're slicing through traffic and you're just splitting through cars and such, the bike doesn't really like to do that, because when you're splitting through traffic, you are just basically slicing through cars and such, and sometimes you see a gap and you want to close that gap. This means that you have to get on the power and close the gap. But because the bike detects that there's a car not that far ahead of you, well, it thinks that you're in danger and it will automatically get on the brakes. scary. When you first get on the bike, this is extremely scary. I'm sure there's a way to turn it off or adjust it or something. I just couldn't figure it out. But what I really don't like is when you want to close gaps, the bike doesn't let you, and as soon as you get on the power, at first it'll let you get on the power, but when you are closing the distance, it'll suddenly slam on the brakes. That I really don't like. Now, the other thing that I don't like about the 1300GS is the gear shifts. I find them too clunky, and you need quite a bit of effort to press down the gear shifter. Now, this is kind of weird because this is a new bike. It really shouldn't be feeling that way, or perhaps it'll feel better after it goes through its first service interval. So that is something that is quite surprising. Now, the final thing about the new GS that I just can't quite accept yet is the design. Now, this is probably the most controversial thing about the new bike. When it was first introduced, it was absolute chaos in BMW Motorrad's comment section on Facebook, Instagram and such. There are many people that were, well, basically had their forks and pitches out because the 1250GS was a darling among BMW fans and such. This, though, is a huge departure. It's something that some say will take time to grow on you, and I've just been waiting for it to grow on me, and yeah, 1250GS, still 1250GS. Now I'm supposed to get to closing of what I think about the bike and conclude this review, but there's another thing that I forgot to mention, and that is the auto hold function available with the new GS. I can't remember if it was on the 1250 as well, but the auto hold function just makes it a lot easier to manage the weight and size of the bike, especially on an uphill incline. You know, sometimes when you are riding uphill and such and you come across an intersection or traffic lights and such, and you just have to manage the throttle as well as the clutch and such. Now, not a big problem if you're riding a lot. You will get used to it, as well as the character of the bike, what it likes to do, as well as the biting point of the clutch. But with the auto hold function, it just makes it a lot more manageable. You can, especially when you're waiting at traffic lights, put it into neutral, turn on the auto hold, and the bike just holds in place. You don't have to, actively engage the brakes. That is something that I really like, together with the adaptive cruise control and blind spot monitoring system, which, by the way, I first experienced with the Ducati Multistrada V4S about, I think, 2 or maybe perhaps 3 years ago. Anyway, conclusion of the new R1300GS, it is still a very capable bike. It might have lost some of its character, but that trade-off that you get smoothness in return, and that is something that I appreciate. It is something, of course, the 1250GS has the typical GS character, but this is more refined, it's smoother, and looks aside, it's still something that you can ride for hours and hours on end. Do I like it? I do like it. I'm just waiting for that design to grow on me. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Do consider subscribing.